Hello and welcome to another episode of Tesseract Talk, the place where we put the spotlight on new tech trends. I'm your host, Marko, the founder and CEO of Tesseract Analytics, and it is my pleasure today to have Amir Peres as our guest, CTO and co-founder of Yuki, a platform to optimize your Snowflake cost and performance. Amir, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Marko. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, let's jump straight into it. You were a Snowflake user long before you became a Snowflake optimizer. What were you seeing in the market that made you decide to start Yuki?
That's a great question. So I think that my experience as a Snowflake user is that you're both. You're a Snowflake user, but you're also a Snowflake optimizer. In my past company, I did it for like 50% of the time. Now it's like my life mission, I will say. So it's something that you need to do. If you will just work on Snowflake and you won't optimize anything, I think that you won't get from Snowflake at the best that you can get. So in terms of performance or cost, especially.
And so what was the thing that you saw happening in the market that made you say like, okay, we have to go and fix this?
So I think when we started, everything was like super smooth. Everything was super easy. But then my CTO came to me and started talking to me about performance, about cost. And I realized that I don't really have a control. Like I can check what happened in the past. I can check what happened last week, a month before, and then change my environment according to that. But the reality is that you have spikes all of the time. Some of the time you have 10 users, some of the time you have 100 users. And then it's really hard to manage it. So you're starting to create a lot of warehouses, like different servers that will run the queries. But then you're becoming a query orchestrator or a warehouse orchestrator, and it's taking a lot of time. And that's what made me start Yuki. Well,
And for those listening who may not be so deep in this operational challenge, what exactly is going wrong today with how companies are managing Snowflake costs and performance?
So I think that companies are trying to do their best. They're spending a lot of time on optimizing their Snowflake account. And from the user side, they are experiencing problems or queries getting stuck. That's the part when they're sending a Slack message, probably to the account admin of the Snowflake. So they don't experience all of the hassle of managing the infrastructure. Like we're always treating Snowflake as an easy solution. Everything is just working. But behind the scene, the person that's in charge of it, the account admin, is basically managing something that is not really far from AWS or from GCP. And we know that we must optimize our cloud environment. So Snowflake is part of them and we need to take care of it, or we won't get what we could get from Snowflake.
Is this something organizations are actively aware of, or is it more of like a hidden inefficiency that only becomes obvious when the invoice arrives?
So it depends. I think that we saw during the way a lot of companies that are spending entire teams of optimizing their Snowflake account. And some of the companies don't really know that they can save 50% of their cost, or they can improve their performance 2 or 3 times. They can make their jobs run faster. Their users will be happier. If they have customer facing application, it will run faster. So they can do a lot. I think that's what we want to accomplish in Yuki, just to make it really simple. And I think that what we need to remember is that the person that is in charge of the Snowflake account most of the time is a data engineer. He's not a DevOps. And we're trying to take all of the DevOps part and just do it automatically, and making sure that the data engineers will deal with bringing value to the company and deal with the data and deal with data problems and not with servers problems.
How significant is the impact when it comes to cost overruns, engineering time, and like business performance?
So again, of course, everything depends on the company use case. I can speak on my experience with Snowflake. I used to spend like 50% of my day managing the account. So I didn't bring any value to the organization except for try to make things run faster or reduce the cost. But I think that my job as a data engineer was to bring value to the organization by making other users using Snowflake and making other departments bring in their data into Snowflake and help them structure all of the data. And it's more as a business job and not as a DevOps job. So as my experience, I think that I put a lot of effort, more than I wanted to. And I think it's really similar in other companies.
Yeah, or are there any misconceptions around what actually drives Snowflake costs?
Eventually, you have multiple things that impact your Snowflake cost. The main one is compute. After that, we have storage, and then you have a lot of other things. But let's focus on compute. That's what impact the most on the cost of your Snowflake account. I think that what everyone is trying to do is balance between what's the best practice that says, let's give a warehouse for every single system or every single user. Or the other part, let's try to consolidate it as much as we can, because that's the balance you're trying to have. So it's always the balance between performance and cost. And I think it's more a question for the business that we are working with. Like, what's your budget? What's your expectations in terms of queries SLA? Do you want to separate it into different areas, like things that are customer facing? I have an SLA of 5 seconds and I'm willing to pay as much as I need for that. Or I have a group of analysts that are running jobs that takes like 2 or 3 hours a day. So I don't really care if it will take 30 minutes more, if I will pay less. So it's a lot of questions that depends on the budget and the SLAs of the organization. And I think that's what everyone are trying to do.
And how does Yuki approach this problem differently from traditional dashboards or manual cost monitoring?
So again, if I'm trying to remember what I did, so I build dashboards at the beginning to understand what I'm spending on, where do I have performance issues. And after that, I try to locate some things that I can change, maybe tables that I'm not using. And I started to research the entire platform, but it took a lot. What we tried to do differently in Yuki is that we built kind of a load balancer for Snowflake. We want to make sure that every query will run on the best warehouse according to the workload that is running in every single moment. Because you can set a query now, it will run for 1 minute. You will send it tomorrow at a different hour, or maybe the same hour, and it will take 1.5 minutes. Every time that you are running a query, it depends on what's running right now in your Snowflake account. So we want to balance it perfectly, because if you are thinking about it, you can't really pick a warehouse size to a certain system, because every query have different data that is scanning, or different aggregation that it's making. So we need to treat every query as an entire wall by itself, and making sure that every query will get to the right warehouse. And we want to do it behind the scene. We want to do it in real time. And basically, that's what our work as data engineer in Snowflake. So we are doing it automatically. We want to reduce the time. So we started to work with some companies and saw that the teams that were dealing with optimizing their Snowflake account are starting to deal with how to bring more value to the organization by bringing more data, bringing more use cases, improving customer experience, and things like that.
You described Yuki as a plug and play with real-time warehouse optimization. What does that actually look like once a customer activates the platform?
From the beginning, I think that we want to keep the customer's environment as it is. Because if you will come to a certain Snowflake environment and you start changing the roles and the users and the warehouses, then I don't think that someone will want to work with you. So from the start, our guide was to keeping the Snowflake environment the same as we started. So when companies are starting to work with Yuki, they don't have to change anything. Not the users, not the roles, not the permissions, even not the warehouses. We are doing all of the optimization behind the scene. The only thing that we're asking from our users is to change a connection string. So instead going straight to Snowflake, we'll go from Yuki, and Yuki will send the query to Snowflake, to the right warehouse, in terms of size, in terms of type, and in terms of availability. Like which warehouse is available right now to get this specific query.
Can you walk us through a real example of a DBT user or a team using Yuki, the challenge they were facing, and what changed after deploying the platform? Tell us how quickly they typically saw ROI or performance improvements.
The ROI part is really easy. Let's start from that. When we're installing Yuki, we're seeing cost reduction between 30 to 60%. And we're also seeing improvement. Yeah, we're also seeing improvement on the performance because we're making sure that the big warehouses are free to handle big queries and not dealing with all of the small ones. So that's in terms of ROI, and it's an immediate ROI. From the moment you're starting to work with Yuki, you're starting to see the cost reduction and the performance improvement. So it's interesting that you ask about DBT because we are seeing DBT in every company that we are working with. It's like the first platform that everyone are picking. If you're working with Snowflake or any other tool, you're working with DBT. And what we're seeing with this customer is that they have one connection because, again, that's the best practice. You have one connection from DBT to Snowflake and you need to pick a warehouse. But how can you really pick a warehouse? You have hundreds of models inside DBT. What's the best warehouse for every single model? So we're doing the same optimization that we're doing for all of the queries. We're doing for DBT. But for DBT, we have a different treatment. We build an open source package that adds a lot of tags into your queries. By that, our models can learn what's the best warehouse for every model. And of course, it depends. Some of the jobs are running fully. Some of them are incrementally. You have CI, you have CD, you have so many use cases, and you are trying to control everything with one connection. And as I said before, we are making sure that the entire environment will stay the same. So what we're asking from the DBT user is just change the connection string. It takes like 1 minute. All of the queries will be sent through Yuki, and we'll make sure that every query will get to the right warehouse. And beside that, we have a lot of other features related to DBT. Probably we'll talk about it in a second.
Actually, something I wanted to ask you is beyond cost savings, this kind of like immediate ROI, which is amazing. What strategic advantages does Yuki deliver specifically for DBT user?
So when you're working with DBT, let's take an example. I have a job that runs for an hour. I want to make it shorter. So I'm trying to focus because it's running like hundreds of models. I'm trying to be focused on what can I optimize. Like Yuki is making sure that every query is going to the right warehouse. Perfect. Now what? I want to make it shorter. So what Yuki offers is inside our platform, we're showing a really detailed Gantt of how the job looks like. So you're seeing that you have some models that are running at the same times, and you have after that a few models that are running as one block because they have a dependency on the first one. So we want to guide you on which models you need to concentrate in terms of query optimization. And beside that, we are offering our users to make some tests. Like I want to see what happens if we'll take one model and I will increase its warehouse size. So in terms of running on an extra large, let's try to run it on 2XL. So today, if you want to do it, you need to change it for the entire job. It will just double your cost. We want to give our user an option to change only one model. And after they will change it, we will show them a detailed overview on what was the impact, because it's really hard to measure the impact. So we are making all of the calculation behind the scenes, and we are showing you how the performance looks after we change the warehouse size and what was the impact on the cost. And I think what we're trying to help our users do is to optimize their environment like by 100% and make it easy. So you don't have to develop a lot of internal tools, but to have everything under one platform.
I know there are a lot of tools that simply report on Snowflake costs, but Yuki actively optimizes DBT and Snowflake workloads in real time. What's the key technological or, let's say, architectural advantage that makes that possible?
So first is our open source package that adds all of the necessary data for every query. because when you're setting a query to Snowflake, you just have the query itself. You don't know what's the job, what's the model, in which invocation it was running. So we're adding first all of the tags that we need. After that, we have some proprietary models that are running inside Yuki and are calculating the best warehouse for every single model. Beside that, we have our platform that connects between the user preferences to our models and making sure that we are taking care of every job from end, from side.
Okay, great. And you emphasize enterprise grade security and compliance. How important is this for large customers, and how do you ensure seamless adoption in regulated environments?
Companies that are working with Snowflake have PII data inside it, and their data is becoming their biggest asset. And we want to make sure we're addressing it correctly. So the first thing that companies are asking when we started to work with them is what happens to all of my queries, all of my results? Are they going through Yuki? And what we did is that we build our architecture where we can put our infrastructure in their cloud environment. By that, we're making sure that all of the queries and all of the result set are staying inside the organization and they're not getting out. So we're putting our infrastructure in their cloud. Everything is staying secured. And we're working with a lot of enterprises. And that was our key success with them. Because when Yuki is running inside our cloud environment, we're making sure that everything is kept secured, but you're also getting all of the optimization.
Where do you see data infrastructure management heading in the next few years? Are we moving towards fully autonomous, self-optimizing platforms, or what's your take on this?
So I said at the beginning that one of the reasons that started Yuki is that I experienced it myself, like all of the optimization. But the second reason that we started Yuki was we saw a trend in the market when companies are trying to rely on more than one platform. They don't want to be vendor locked. They want to use Snowflake for some of the use cases. They want to use Databricks. They want to use BigQuery, and they want to use other open source tools. But until a few years ago, you couldn't really do it because you had to ingest your data for every single platform. And then you have multiple jobs that running in different platforms connected to different data sources. Some of them are just duplicated. And of course, everyone are familiar with Iceberg today or with other formats. And it's giving users the ability to put all of the data in one place in their S3 bucket, for example, and connect all of the other platforms to it. And when we started to see the trend, we started to ask the question, what's the best data platform for every single query? So that's the reason we started Yuki. We want to make sure that we are building a query federator that knows how to get a query, evaluates what's the best platform to run on, or what's the best query engine. And then inside every query engine, we want to make sure that we are picking the right server for it. So our query federator is working today inside Snowflake. It's really easy to understand how we are picking the best warehouse for every query. But as we can see this trend going on, we will pick the right data platform and then the right server. And by that, we'll make sure that every company that uses Snowflake or Databricks or BigQuery, or they want to use other tool, we will help them making sure that all of the queries are separated correctly on all of these platforms. And we're seeing, for example, the merge between dbt and Fivetran, and they're talking a lot about this future. And I think that Yuki is taking care of a key part. It's the query federation question. It's something that people are trying to solve for so many years. And I think that's the time right now to handle it, especially when we're talking about AI agents that are going to be connected into your data platforms and will generate so many queries. I think that what we need to remember is that every query deserve its own treatment. And for every query, we'll have to pick the best data platform, the best warehouse type, or the best server for it. That's the future that we're seeing right now. And that's what we're trying to solve.
That's actually kind of connected to my next question, which is what's on your roadmap for Yuki? Are you exploring beyond Snowflake or going deeper into AI-driven automation within the data stack. But I guess you already kind of touched upon like your direction there, right?
Yeah, if I will just have to summarize it, as a data engineer, when you're trying to imagine how the perfect environment looks like. So the perfect environment looks like when every single query is running on the perfect place, like on the right server, on the right data platform. And I feel that no one wants to do it. You can't really do it by checking what happened a month ago and then change it to the month after that. You have to do it in real time, and you need to do it according to your entire platform and not just according to one system.
And where can people learn more or try Yuki?
One of the tools that we have, before we are starting to work with companies, we are offering a free analysis. That's our estimation of what Yuki impact will be inside your platform. We're given an estimation of how much we can save you. You can see it in our yukidata.com website. We're given a full guide of how you can do it internally, and then you will get the estimation. That will be our minimum amount of what we can save you. And as I said, the implementation is really easy.
I mean, it sounds amazing, very straightforward. Thank you so much, Amir, for coming to the show and sharing these valuable insights. I'm sure our audience will appreciate it, and all the Snowflake users will get in touch with Yuki for their free estimate. That was all for today, and I hope to see you again in the future on another episode of Tesseract Talks.
Marko, thank you very much. It was really fun to talk with you about Yuki.
Great. Thanks. Bye, Amir.
Bye-bye.